Everything you see around you was first created in the unseen world of thought. And there is one idea, simple, powerful, eternal, that has made thousands of ordinary people extraordinarily wealthy. Have you ever stopped to truly consider what occupies your mind hour by hour, day by day? What thoughts do you allow to nest and take root? For most people, this question remains unasked, and yet, the answer to it quietly shapes the entire course of their lives. More than 2,000 years ago, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man's life is what his thoughts make of it." Long before that, King Solomon wrote, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." And in our own time, this same principle has become the bedrock of success philosophy. We become what we think about. Not temporarily, not occasionally, but always and without exception. This idea is not motivational fluff. It is a law of the mind, as reliable as gravity. Like a garden, your mind does not care what you plant. It will return what you sow. Plant thorns and you will harvest pain. Plant wheat and you will harvest nourishment. But the harvest is inevitable. I once knew a man who had spent more than 20 years blaming the world for his lack of progress. He blamed his employer, the economy, the government, even the weather. And yet, his thoughts were always the same: small, fearful, doubting. Each morning he'd rise with the same complaint on his lips. He fed his mind with resentment and futility, and life faithfully returned to him what he had ordered. Contrast this with another man I knew who, despite having very little formal education, built a small empire through a single habit. Each morning, he would spend 30 minutes in absolute silence, visualizing what he intended to accomplish, seeing it as already done. He thought about his goals constantly, spoke of them as if they were certain, and acted every day in alignment with them. And life, too, gave him what he expected. The difference between these two men was not talent, it was not luck, it was not even opportunity, it was thought. You see, thought is the first currency of wealth. Every building you pass, every invention you use, every business that creates jobs and prosperity, all began as nothing more than a persistent idea in someone's mind. Someone, somewhere, decided to believe in that idea, to water it with attention, to act upon it again and again, until the world had no choice but to give it form. And yet, how few people truly guard their thoughts. Most minds are like unattended gardens, overgrown with weeds of worry, doubt, gossip, and fear, but the individual who decides, with intention, to plant thoughts of strength, of vision, of abundance, of gratitude, of clear purpose, begins to move toward those very things as surely as the sun rises in the morning. If you're not yet where you want to be in life, I invite you to consider, what have you been thinking about most often? What images, what beliefs, what assumptions have you rehearsed each day? Because those thoughts are not neutral, they are seeds, and the harvest is coming. We do not attract what we want. We attract what we are, and we are the result of our dominant thoughts. So the first step in building wealth in any form is not in labor or education or networking. It begins in silence, in reflection, in that quiet moment when you choose what thoughts you will allow to dwell in your mind, and which you will uproot and discard. And once you choose to dwell on the life you desire, consistently, intentionally, life itself begins to conspire in your favor. People appear, ideas arrive, doors open, not by magic, but by law. We become what we think about, and the moment we truly believe that, our whole world begins to change. The law of cause and effect. Imagine a great scale. On one side, your actions, on the other, your results. The world does not tip the scale in your favor because of hope or need or circumstance. It tips based on something far more ancient and unchanging, the law of cause and effect. This law, perhaps the most powerful in human experience, tells us that for every result, there is a precise cause, and once the cause is known and repeated, the result can be predicted, not by chance but by certainty. Yet most people move through life as though this law does not apply to them. They search for shortcuts, they hope for miracles, or they envy the success of others, never stopping to ask the essential question, what causes produce the result I seek? You see, wealth is not a random event. It is the effect of specific causes. decisions, disciplines, ways of thinking and behaving that align with prosperity. And just as surely, poverty and frustration are not punishments. They too are effects, born of causes that often go unnoticed but never go unpaid. Let me share a story. There was once a young man who dreamed of becoming a successful writer. He spoke of it often. He read about it. He told others that he had great ideas. And yet, year after year, no books were written, no essays completed, only frustration grew. One day he came to a mentor and asked, "Why hasn't success come to me?" The mentor asked only one question: "How many hours have you written this week?" The young man was silent. He hadn't written at all. The mentor simply said, "Then you must not yet want success, because the cause of success is always action." The law of cause and effect does not respond to what we say we want. It responds only to what we do. A farmer may hope for a harvest, pray for a harvest, even complain to others that his land remains bare. But if he has not planted seeds, if he has not watered the soil, if he has not protected it from weeds and pests, then the harvest will not come. Not because the world is unfair, but because the cause was never initiated. This law does not punish. It does not favor one person over another. It is as available to the poor as to the rich, to the young as to the old. But it demands that we be honest, that we look at our lives and ask, what are the real causes behind the results I see? If your finances are not where you wish them to be, ask, what choices, beliefs, and habits have led me here? If your relationships are lacking, your health declining, or your career stagnant, don't curse the effect. Trace it back to the cause. And once you find the cause, you hold the power. This is what makes this law so liberating, because it tells us that nothing is fixed, no condition is final, no failure is permanent, unless we continue to repeat the same causes that produced it. One of the great tragedies of life is that most people try to change effects. They treat symptoms, patch problems, chase quick wins, all the while ignoring the root. But the wise individual goes deeper. They become a student of causality. They study success, not just its surface, but its source. They model the disciplines of those who have created wealth. They adopt the mindset, the habits, the patterns of thought that lead to abundance. Because once you commit to planting the right seeds, day after day with patience and faith, the harvest becomes inevitable. Nothing happens without a cause, and nothing is withheld when the cause is rightly sown. So I ask you today, are you living as though your results are accidents, or as though they are exact reflections of the causes you have set in motion? Because once you embrace this law, truly embrace it, you will no longer feel like a victim of chance. You will know that your life, all of it, is yours to shape. The power of definite purpose. If a ship sets sail without a destination, with no map, no compass, and no clear harbor in mind, where do you suppose it will end up? Perhaps it will drift in circles. Perhaps it will crash upon rocks. Perhaps it will sink in quiet despair, never having reached any shore at all. That's how most people live. They rise in the morning, carry out routines, follow instructions, respond to demands, and yet they have no definite purpose. No great objective that animates their days. No burning aim that lifts them above the ordinary. They move, but they do not advance. They work, but they do not build. They are busy, but not directed. And yet, history has shown us again and again that every man or woman who has built wealth, real wealth, enduring wealth, did so with one foundation, a clear, unwavering, definite purpose, not a vague wish, not a passing hope, but a goal so deeply felt, so sharply imagined, that it became a guiding star, influencing every decision, every habit, every relationship. I remember a young entrepreneur who at 21 years old wrote on a small card, "I will become a millionaire by the age of 30 by creating a business that serves people honestly and at scale." He read that card every morning and every night. He kept it in his wallet, worn and faded, and every single day he asked himself, what can I do today that moves me closer to this? By the time he was 29, his company was worth more than $5 million. Not because he was the most brilliant, not because he was the luckiest, but because he knew where he was going. And day by day, his mind and efforts aligned with that vision. This is not a fantasy. This is a law. The mind, once given a definite direction, becomes magnetized to the people, the ideas, and the circumstances that support it. But the opposite is also true. A mind with no direction, no clearly chosen purpose, becomes like a leaf in the wind. It is easily distracted, easily discouraged, and ultimately easily defeated. Have you ever noticed how some individuals seem to move with clarity, with urgency, with fire? It's because they are not wondering what to do. They are simply doing what serves their purpose. Their energy is not wasted on indecision. Their time is not squandered on trivial pursuits. Their focus is like a beam of light, sharp, directed, and powerful. And so I ask you, what is your definite purpose? Not what others expect of you, not what the world suggests, but what you have chosen, freely, consciously, with full belief. If that purpose is not yet clear, begin there. Set aside an hour, sit in stillness. Ask the questions. What would I pursue if I knew I could not fail? What contribution do I wish to make? What kind of life am I determined to build? And once you find it, write it, speak it, think it, carry it with you, let it guide you, let it filter your choices, shape your days, awaken your strength, because that purpose will become a force in your life more powerful than talent, than resources, than luck. Definite purpose creates direction. Direction creates action. Action creates results. And results, repeated, refined, and aligned with that purpose, create wealth. Not just material wealth, but wealth of meaning, of impact, of fulfillment. The world steps aside for the man who knows where he's going. So ask yourself today, and ask without hesitation, do I know mine? The silent force of daily habits. There is a quiet builder working in your life at this very moment. You may not see it, you may not hear it, but it is laying brick upon brick, shaping your future in perfect obedience to what you have instructed. Not through grand declarations, but through something far more subtle, your daily habits. You see, every day you live is a vote cast not with words, but with repeated behavior. And the sum of these votes, the little things you do when no one is watching, determine what kind of person you become, what kind of life you build, and what kind of wealth, if any, will come into your hands. Too many people believe that success is born in moments of inspiration. They wait for motivation, for the perfect mood, for some great opportunity to appear, but the truth is far less glamorous and far more powerful. Success is built in silence, in the morning ritual that aligns your mind, in the discipline to learn when others sleep, in the choice to save when others spend, in the decision to act when others hesitate. And these small, seemingly insignificant acts, repeated day after day, form the invisible architecture of greatness. There was once a factory owner who, every morning at 5 o'clock, walked the floor of his plant, not to check on workers, not to demand results, but to greet the day with humility, presence, and order. That simple routine, carried out over decades, created a culture of excellence so strong that even when he was no longer present, his business continued to flourish. Why? Because he had woven discipline into the fabric of the organization through habit, and you can do the same in your finances, your thinking, your relationships, and your sense of purpose. Ask yourself, what do my habits say about my future? Because the body you carry, the knowledge you possess, the reputation you hold, the money in your account, all of it, without exception, is the result of repeated choices, often so small, so familiar, that we overlook their power entirely. Do you begin your day with intention or with reaction? Do you read or do you scroll? Do you move with purpose or with distraction? Each of these choices, harmless in isolation, compound over time into a life that either thrives or deteriorates. And here is the remarkable truth. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You need only to adjust the direction of your habits. 1 degree, repeated over time, will take a ship to a different continent. And one change, one small, consistent daily improvement, will set your life on a new trajectory. So let me challenge you. Choose one habit, just one, something small, something good, and practice it every day without excuse, without negotiation. Let it become part of you. Because once you've proven to yourself that change is possible, that discipline is within your grasp, a quiet power awakens inside you, and that power, like a snowball rolling downhill, begins to gather strength. The difference between a wealthy man and a poor one is not found in a single decision. It is found in the habits repeated over a lifetime. So I ask you now with sincerity, what are you building brick by brick in silence? For that structure, seen or unseen, will one day become the life you live. Wealth begins in the mind before it ever reaches the hand. Stand in the center of any great city and you will see towers of glass, streets filled with cars, stores brimming with goods, a vast world of visible wealth. But look closer. Ask the question few dare to ask. Where did all this begin? The answer is as simple as it is profound. It began in the mind. Before a single brick was laid, before a single dollar exchanged hands, every skyscraper was first an idea. Every business, every innovation, every fortune, first conceived in the unseen realm of thought. A vision, clear and persistent, held in the mind of someone who believed it could be done. That is the birthplace of all wealth. And yet the average person lives as though wealth is something purely external, something to chase, something to acquire, something to stumble upon. They labor without clarity, spend without purpose, and hope without belief, never realizing that the richest soil for wealth is not out there. It is within. The truth is, a man's bank account is a reflection of his inner world, his beliefs, his expectations, his self-image. These form the ceiling of what he can receive. If he sees himself as limited, unworthy, or always just surviving, no amount of external opportunity can outpace that inner picture. Have you ever met someone who came into money, perhaps through inheritance, a windfall, or even sudden success, only to lose it all within a few years? That's not misfortune. That is the mind returning to its default. Because if the mind has not changed, no gain can be sustained. But the opposite is just as true and even more powerful. When a person begins to change their inner world, when they see themselves as capable, worthy, and creative, the world outside slowly begins to conform, not instantly, but steadily. Opportunities begin to appear where none existed. Resources flow where once there was lack. People are drawn to their confidence, their clarity, their conviction. This is not mysticism. This is alignment. Because your thoughts are instructions, your beliefs are blueprints, and your vision is a magnet, drawing to you that which matches its frequency. But you must hold that vision. You must guard it. You must live as though it were already true. That is what the great minds have always done. Henry Ford once said, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right." Why? Because your thoughts shape your behavior shapes your results, and your results reinforce your thoughts. That cycle, once understood, becomes the lever by which you can move the world. So let me speak plainly. If you wish to build wealth, start with your mind. Clean out the clutter. Refuse to dwell on lack, limitation, or failure. Replace doubt with discipline. Replace envy with action. Replace fear with focus. Feed your mind with ideas of abundance. Read the lives of those who have created wealth through service and substance. Surround yourself with those who think boldly and speak constructively. Speak of where you're going, not just where you are. And most importantly, never let your present circumstances define your permanent identity. You are not your bank balance. You are not your job title. You are not your past mistakes. You are the architect of your thought, and thought sustained and directed becomes reality. Wealth begins in the mind. Before it ever reaches the hand, it must be welcomed in the heart. It must be envisioned, believed, and pursued with the quiet certainty of one who already possesses it, in spirit, in discipline, in purpose. So I leave you with this thought. What vision of yourself are you holding? And is it worthy of the life you truly desire?